Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, perhaps. Welcome to the Xillio webinar. Thank you for joining. Who's in? We're going to talk about Copilot confusion, and how to get to more Copilot confidence from that. And I'm very happy to do this today with my colleague Rich from across the pond. Rich, maybe you can introduce yourself. Start.
Absolutely, Sjoerd. Thank you very much and welcome to everybody. Appreciate everyone taking some time out for us to speak about Knoodle and how we're helping customers find quicker value from Copilot and Copilot adoption across the board with our Knoodle product. So excited to have the chance to meet everyone and talk about the technology today.
Yes, thank you, Rich. And also from me, my name is Sjoerd. Very happy everyone is in. I'm gonna start this webinar, talk more about what we uncovered about Copilot implementations we were involved with, and how we came to a solution for a couple of challenges that we saw. So that's what we're gonna cover. The challenges, right, that we found with Copilot agents and a hidden problem we uncovered, but also an actual full-on project that's happening right now, still happening right now. They're really implementing agentic AI in their organization with Agfa, and Rich is going to talk to you more in depth about that. Very interesting use case. Then also we'll introduce Knoodle as a product, as the concept. We're very excited about that, and then talk a little bit about how Knoodle could work for you. Some housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded currently. If you have any questions, please feel free to share right at the moment you have them in the chat. We're two. We'll hope to cover them, or we'll stop a little bit to try to answer it directly. And we'll appreciate, already put the QR code in. You don't have to fill it out yet, but we'll appreciate if you can give a little bit of feedback at the end of the session, how we did, what we could have done better, just to keep learning. But before we dive into Knoodle and Copilot, maybe a little bit of background on Xillio. Not sure if everyone knows Xillio, where we come from, but we're here since 2004. And we've been doing content data migration since 2004, and we're still doing it. We created our own platform for that, software platform. It's a low-code environment where you can do basically any legacy content data migration to modern content services platforms like SharePoint, but also OpenText or Alfresco, any more modern environments that you would want to move to. So that's what we've been doing since 2004. Many organizations around the globe that we provided the migrations to, or our partners. And in all those years, we learned a lot about content and data in general, but also metadata, right? Very important in these migrations, and how to handle complex data and content landscapes. And this expertise is now what we really use in this new development, this new product Knoodle. And this is what we use to make AI work for our customers, where they have less success without. And we're going to dive into that. Because what we see in general is that, for many organizations, one of the biggest opportunities of AI is to uncover and to unlock the value that's in their unstructured data. It's always been about the value of content and unstructured data, and also in the search area already. But I think right now with AI, we really have the opportunity to get it out. But what we found being involved in certain projects with AI and unstructured data is that you need to do a couple of things to make it really work for you. Because what we did see in those projects that we're involved with, or customers that we were only involved on a migration, but discussed their their Copilot, their agentic programs, their implementations, is that many of the initiatives were failing. They were not delivering the results they expected. That had to do with different things. It's not all about. It's not all one topic that you need to fix. It's of course different challenges around implementations. And what I was thinking about talking to these customers and being part of these programs is quite some time back when I started in content management. You had this thing called Google that became more common, right? So it was searching and using Google, and a little bit of time after Google was completely adopted in every household, also enterprise search was rose, right? So the question for, hey, I want to do this Googling that I do at home. I also want to do that in my work environment. And actually, I was implementing these yellow boxes of Google Enterprise Search in enterprise organizations, connecting all the different content repositories, basically what we're doing still, and making sure that they could search. And one of the common problems, next to all kinds of permission, mapping issues, etc., but one of the problems was mostly that they didn't get the same results as they would expect when they were Googling at home or on their normal laptop environment and not in their work environment. And that had to do with you're just asking different questions, right? So if you're Googling, you're very generic, and if you're searching in your enterprise, you're very specific. It's very unique information. And also the information on the internet, it's built to be found, or it's created to be found. And within your enterprise, it's not per se. It's created for a specific purpose in a specific context. So I really had to, that really brought me back to that time when I was talking to clients implementing Copilot and expecting the ChatGPT experience. So I talked to a couple of our customers, and they gave some examples also on what kind of questions they were then expecting. And it was very specific. So one of them, for instance, we have this suggestions from a residence panel, smart cycling. Did we or did we not yet incorporate that into our policy? It's super specific. You would not ask that to your home ChatGPT. It's more like a generic make urban mobility more sustainable or something like that. And there are many examples of these things that you can. There are many examples of these. So that has to do with the expectation, but also with the data, right? And going back to that search, it was all about context. It was all about metadata, having the right metadata, and the search became better. So that's also what we see, and that's of course what we understand very well, and that's also what we built Knoodle for. So summarizing a little bit, why do many of these initiatives fail? We see it's those expectations, right? ChatGPT versus Copilot, or Google versus enterprise search, but also not really the right use. It's not embedded in the process. It's really standalone. They created a custom agent that is connected to context that they just put in there, but it's not synced. It's not. So that's also sometimes a reason, but also not thinking a little bit beyond just adding AI, right? Because the agentic revolution, it's really the next big transformation, I think. So it's also about changing processes like we have in the whole digital transformation and revolution, where processes changed. And I think that's also a big part of agentic AI. But also, of course, adoption. It's a change. It's different way of working. It's a transition. You really need to make sure you guide that well and have everyone on board, every employee. But next to that also, and maybe most importantly, or at least for us right now, and that's also the space that we're in, we saw that the initiatives failed because there was in the agent context, it didn't have the right or well prepared data to work with, and that's something that we understand really well, and that's something that we could fix. So the solution for us in general is stop thinking about generic AI and think about more an application on a process, a specific process or a specific knowledge question. That's something that we see that works really well. Also, the projects that we are now doing with Knoodle, we start with one use case, we prove it works, we build one agent, then we go into the next agent with a different department. They have a different requirement, they have different data sets, and then you scale through your organization, basically your agentic rollout. And every time there's a business case, and every time there's a little success, and you can move beyond. That works really well, and yeah, have the right and the prepared data per use case, and make sure that stays in sync, and make sure that you can manage that. So that is why we realized Knoodle, and we're very proud to be able to present that now to you. We'll do that in a minute, but first also go through a use case, I think, or a specific client case from Agfa, because then it really gets to then it really starts living and breathing. But first, Knoodle. Why is it called Knoodle? It's good to know. It's because it's all about knowledge, the knowledge that's in your unstructured data, that's within your organization, and it's all about using that in the right way, like a brain. So we combined those two, and that became Knoodle. And conceptually, how does that work? Well, as we come from migrations, we understand content sources and connecting to these content sources and getting the data out, doing something with the data, transforming the data, and moving it into a new environment in a cleaned way, restructured way, enriched way. Basically, that's what Knoodle is also doing. So we connect to content repositories. Could be your Copilot, your SharePoint environment where Copilot runs, but could also be external repositories, your OpenText, your Alfresco, maybe your Salesforce. It doesn't really matter. We get out the data, and you can then start selecting, maybe chunking, doing some work on the data to prepare the best possible data set for a specific use case that you're working on. And that data set is then what you can publish to your agent. Could be a Copilot agent, but we are also, we're basically agnostic to whatever AI you publish it to, but we have a lot of experience with Microsoft 365 and Copilot. So that's how it works. Next to that, we see you get so much better results for your AI. Your users actually get what they want. I will show that in the client case. Next to that, also what we see, and I do wanted to touch on that, other advantages are you will be able to connect to different repositories in your organization. I think that makes sense. But another one is you have an extra control point. You have an extra environment where for your security and governance, you don't just open up your Copilot to your full enterprise content management solution or your full SharePoint, but you get your data, you select the data that you want to get in, and there also you can do some mapping and checking to make sure that that data is actually what you want to publish to your agent. And what we see lately is an additional advantage is the control you have on what kind of agents are using what kind of data in your enterprise. The whole agent sprawl also within Copilot is a big thing, where we had people creating teams on the fly before and completely became an unmanageable experience for many organizations. It's now happening a little bit with these agents where users and teams can build their own agents, or maybe even when you have it in a certain center of excellence, you're building those agents still what agent is built, what data is part of that agent. That kind of overview is difficult to get, and that's also what we can offer with Knoodle. And we see that now as a real added advantage for many of the clients that we work with. Are there any questions at this point? I see something in the chat. I don't know what it is. It's a note taker. All good. If there are not, then I'd like to hand it over to Rich, and
Perfect.
he can show us an actual use case.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for that introduction to the product and the story about how we got here and the history of Knoodle. So now let's actually talk about what it is and how it works. And the reference we're going to go through today is one of our customers, Agfa, to get a little understanding of how we actually make a difference for enterprise-based customers to be more successful with Copilot use cases. So Agfa is a huge technology company. It's based out of the Belgium area. It's got over 10,000 employees, and they focus primarily on really complex, large hardware IT solutions for healthcare, radiology, and industrial-based printing. So like many, many customers that are out there, they were an early adopter of Copilot and were not finding significant value. Of course, we love that it takes meeting notes or can help me draft an email. That doesn't really justify, the $30 extra a month or whatever it might be to come over and have that across 10,000 employees, as well as they were not getting the acceleration on the more technical requirements that they had. They tried a couple of different approaches by massaging the semantic AI more. They looked at developing their own AI components and RAGs that just wasn't scalable. And, a lot of these enterprises, they don't want to be hiring data scientists to come over and manage agents and chats and be able to help accelerate finding that intelligence and adoption of LLMs across the board. So we were able to partner with them after we, really got started embedding and understanding their content while we were doing the legacy content migration with our migration platform into SharePoint Online. And we came across their challenge with Copilot, and we were able to come through, partner, and help them out. So now, after a couple of pilots, which we'll go over, they're finding more and more specific use cases and publishing more and more refined agents through Knoodle's filtering system. The first use case that we worked with over there basically was around a step-by-step answers of technicians that we were trying to come over and help take junior technicians and have a knowledge base and the accessibility and the experience that you would find from more of the seniors or executives that have been around there for decades, right? Oftentimes, what we were finding is that a lot of their knowledge base was either retiring out or finding additional work. And in order to accelerate and support their customer base while working on these technologies, they needed to come over and look at all the different capabilities of functionality of these hardware devices. They were all very unique and very complicated, and it doesn't scale. You can't be a master of every single system out there. So what they found with the Copilot answers is it was really, really mixed results. It was either a generalized summary, a hallucination, or it wasn't truly helping, these agents in the field accelerate the use. So we took that idea and the concept, the use case of taking their manuals, ingesting them over into our platform. With Knoodle, we're able to connect to the different repositories, prepare specifically the data sets that were necessary to feed this agent. Then we go through our process of chunking and increasing some of the intelligence that we have on said systems, sort of the metadata massaging that comes from 2 decades of having this experience with content and content migration. And lastly, being able to orchestrate over through Copilot Studio, pushing that tailored specific semantic index for an agent to come through and provide true outputs that are very specific to the asks. So what does that mean? I want to actually show you what the question was that, for a specific example from the technicians, what the expected answer was supposed to look like, as well as a comparison side by side of what it looked like with just Copilot versus the refined and specific output you were able to get with a tailored agentic agent hosted by Knoodle pushed through Copilot Studio. In this case, they wanted to measure network speed, right? Any of these large complex systems needed to refine some networking components. With us, we were able to come through and get a sort of side-by-side answer. What you'll see here on the left-hand side is Copilot by itself, where it's just pointing over to the SharePoint as whole and trying to find and understand what the outputs would look like. The second thing you're going to see here is our Copilot with Knoodle, where we're executing and showcasing how it compares with the additional refinement. And over on the right-hand side, you'll see the specific answer. So when you do side by side, like I mentioned before, you find that you'll get almost enough information, just enough where it's a good overview and idea, it's in the right area, but it's not necessarily anything that's functional or useful. You'll also find that because we're doing pre-chunking, refining that metadata and feeding it specifically into the agentic components, that it's faster when you're executing and implementing queries with Copilot on Knoodle on top. So if you see on the left-hand side, compare and contrast, it's all generalized. It's not specific, and it doesn't align with the expected answer that they needed to see in the field. With Knoodle, we were able to refine and specifically make it to where it had a technical access to large complex manuals and accelerate those junior technicians to provide value and services to their customers and hardware in a much faster way. And this was absolutely transformational for Agfa. Now all of their capabilities are on a digital platform where in the agents out in the field, the different technicians that fire up their Knoodle enhanced Copilot agent, and it's like having instantaneous access, a company brain for all sources of truth with these different capabilities and complex based manuals. So it was really exciting. And ever since they were able to solve that problem, now we've moved into marketing and human resources and are finding more and more business use cases to help refine, plan for, and massage data and publish into tailored agents based off of personas within the company. So I'll pause for a moment, see if there's any questions, comments up to that point, and more than happy to come over and showcase a quick demonstration of what our platform looks like and how we were able to build sections of customized data sets, refine policies and rules before publishing it and specifically feeding it into your Copilot. Well, if nothing now, we'll have plenty more times for questions and answers on the other side of this. So if you don't mind, I'm going to hijack the share here real quick, Sjoerd. Let's show off Knoodle a little bit. So the first thing you'll notice about us, we are very simple, easy platform to come over and connect and integrate with. If you're already an Azure-based customer, we can actually do transactions through the Azure Marketplace to service our product. From here, you get some pretty good overviews of all the different sources that you're pointing to. You see in this particular instance, I've got some resources that are residing over in OpenText, of course, a lot of SharePoint Online, some Alfresca. And as Sjoerd mentioned before, it is a very unique capability that we can expose content that has not yet been centralized in the SharePoint or might be in disparate repositories or on a network file share and feed that into your tailored agent to allow access to the intelligence of Copilot without actually having already done the house cleaning to centralize your full data sets. But once we come through from an ingestion perspective, we point to any of the different resources. You can schedule synchronization where it's trigger based. If somebody adds a new file or adds some new systems or refines any sort of the values of existing systems. The synchronization and the enhancements that we can go through and configure are fully customizable based off of your organization and specific use case for those needs. If you've got very static data where you know they're not going to change often, typically we'll just schedule them over on a sync. If you've got large content that seems to go in and out that you want to have access and intelligence to, we can do it from a trigger-based system. Once we come through and have your data sources attached, the next set is that we want to come through and define specific data sets. So for example, on the customer success stories, we want to understand, first of all, what kind of content, so full visibility and understanding of the data set types that are being exposed, what other specific aspects of these items, if they're unique, if they're non-unique, what you might want to do to refine them, and the kinds of contents that you could quickly browse through and see and understand. On top of that, we've got the capability of building specific rule sets. So let's say I want to come through and do my SharePoint. I can build my specific data set. I can create rules that say I only want to look for PDF documents, or I only want these kinds of documents if it's specifically refined from a metadata. You can exclude specific versions. You can block sensitive content if you don't already have, full implementation or purview across your organization. Once you come through and have this refined and massaged, you can pick the specific components for said data sets, be able to share it out with groups within your sections, like Sjoerd mentioned before. We can add an additional layer of security by making sure that you're only getting access to the right resources that are advertised into your Copilot agent. Once you've got these policies, these configurations, everything set up for what resources you want, it's as simple as us being able to publish. We'll execute and start doing that chunking and that metadata massaging to feed the semantic index into your Copilot. So I'll pause, see if there's any other questions, comments up to this point. Beautiful. Sure, do you want to fire the deck back up, my friend?
I will. Yeah, if there are no questions, we're going fast, but that's not a problem, I guess. Let me get back. Yeah, so having seen this demo, I guess we're already at the end of our story. We're happy to answer any questions you might have, but what we also wanted to share is that if you want to try Knoodle, you can, and very easily. If you have a use case, you think this is relevant and it's not really working right now, or just want to try, we're open to do pilots free of charge. There's a link in this presentation, and we'll share afterwards where you can find how to go through that process. You need to share your data, expected answers, etc. So and explain a little bit about what's not working, and we'll see if Knoodle will be able to help. And all the pilots that we have done till date have been really so much better in terms of response of the questions that people were asking. So we're very excited to do these pilots. Yeah, so let us know. We're very open to it. And if there are no other questions, I see Marcus typing. Then maybe Rich, you want to share some last famous words? Yeah, the connectors seem to be the important part. Well,
it's not just about the connectors, right? A lot of our customers are fully on SharePoint Online. One of the things that makes our product unique is that with our Xillio migration platform, over 2 decades, we've created about 120 plus different connectors into legacy ECM platforms to allow for us to abstract, put over in our Mongo, and help do that true, extraction, transformation, and loading of moving into, say, SharePoint Online. However, if all your data is already in SharePoint and you're using regular Copilot, without doing a lot of manual work within the semantic index to refine and massage, and then doing all the things in Copilot Studio that are really complicated, you're still getting generalized answers from your LLM. With Knoodle, what makes us unique is that if you're pointing to and exposing to resources and content that reside outside of your SharePoint, sure, we'll capture it, we'll get the good stuff, we'll understand all those different metadata and abstractions and feed it and expose it to the semantic index of your specific tailored agent. But no matter what, by us coming over and refining and helping massage the data sets, you're able to come through and provide a very unique and abstracted way of essentially turning your LLM into an SLM that's agentic focused for your specific use case. And it all comes from that breaking apart and chunking. So pretty much from what connectors are we supporting, we've got a massive list of them. Let me see if I can find a quick place, but anything that's on-prem legacy, from HP Trim to Documentum to Alfresca to file shares, or pull things out of Lotus Notes. Any sort of legacy ECM platform, 9 times out of 10, we've done it. We've seen it. We either have a really refined, mature migration street path, which acts as sort of the scaffolding for these extractions. Of course, SharePoint on-prem, all kinds of legacy systems. I can make sure to put a link for our supported systems in the Xillio migration. Let me see.
Yeah, and see, Chris just shared a link to sign up for a pilot if you want to. So if you do, there's the link. And indeed, as you just said, Rich, I mean, the connectors are definitely an important part, right? It's what we've built the last couple of, the last 20 years, basically doing all these migrations. But I think the unique concept here is really the building of the data sets, refining the data sets, and massaging them, as you call it, to make sure they fit the context of that specific agent in the best way possible, so you get the best results. That's, I think, the unique concept here that we're delivering.
Also put a list of the accelerators that we have associated with our Xillio migration platform. We have more that are sometimes a little bit more refining that we need to come over and help customers to configure. Oh, it's asking for a license key. I'm going to have to find the public facing one. My apologies.
Yeah, we can share after the webinar as well.
For sure. Yeah, do you have a specific system in mind that you're trying to work on, Mark?
Yeah, it's actually, we use a system called Hornbill for our customer support. Of course, obviously, I would expect that you have every system in the world connected, but the idea is that it has a lot of metadata in it instead of documents, you know. So the ones that you were talking about were mainly like document-based systems, where of course Copilot can go through all these documents. But what about a real highly metadata system based on like text, like a support system, where a lot of Q&As were done in the past?
Yeah, so first on the connector side, so it's really a low-code environment. The platform and beneath it is that same so the migration platform where that's built on, that's also part of Knoodle as being able to create connectors in an easy way. If there's an API that's exposed, or there's a database we can connect to, you can also build a connector pretty easily. At least that's what we created the platform for. So if there's not yet a supported connector, it's easy to build one. And then on the metadata, so we also have connectors already now to ticketing systems, or for instance HubSpot, as we use that ourselves also with Knoodle to combine with more unstructured data and the structured data of our marketing and sales in HubSpot to answer any questions we might have about how we're doing on certain topics. So that's definitely also possible. And if you can, we can connect after to discuss the use case you have in mind to see how that would work.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks.
Cool.
For sure, Marcus. Thank you for the question there. From a pricing detail, it's pretty simple. It's a price, like the pilots themselves, of course, are free. Our other pricing capabilities are geared more around the quantity of agents that you're going to be pushing forward. It'd be something I'd like to be able to speak and follow up with. And yes, we do have a partner program, especially across the Americas. We're building out more and more presence in the North American footprint currently, and we really love working with our partners. Our vision is to come over and help our partner groups who are already embedded with a lot of different clients, a lot of customers that are doing Copilot-based imaging or customization or rollouts, and use this as a way of essentially putting a pair of glasses on that AI, helping it be laser focused for specific uses to add value of Copilot within these customer organizations. So we'd be more than happy to get some follow-up and go more detailed into the partner program as well as our pricing.
Any other questions? Then it would be great if you can fill out the survey. We hope to learn from it and get better for the next one. No questions. Then I want to thank everyone for being here, For the questions, Rich, thank you. The rest
Thank you,
of the
Sjoerd.
team,
Always a pleasure to partner.
for sure.
And thank you all for the time today to come over and explore. Definitely would love to have any sort of more detailed follow-ups, or if you have specific use cases that we can address, or you'd like additional stories, we'd love the opportunity to come over and partner, explain more, and look for different ways we can help you and your organization or your customers really find that additional success and value from Copilot using our Knoodle.
Gotcha. Couldn't have said it better. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it, Mark. Thank you.